one of the team here. I'm what's known as a curate in the Church of England, which is effectively someone in training. So I'm training to be a vicar in the Church of England. This morning, I just wanted to talk to you about this, or just bring some reflections that I've been having this week from this text. And I wonder if you've ever had something happen to you that was unpredictable, that left you feeling clawing around like you're trying to fix it. A few years ago, my wife and I were going to bed, and suddenly we started to hear a trickle. And Melissa was like, I think the bath's running. Have you left the bath on? No. I'm sure it's nothing. So I tried to go to sleep. She's like, no, Tim, there is definitely something coming from the bathroom. Sounds like there's a tap on. So I rushed into the bathroom, couldn't see a tap on, could definitely hear gushing of water. And so I was like, oh no. So I ran downstairs to where the stop tap was. Too late. The water was coming through the kitchen ceiling. I was like, oh my word. We've lived in this house 18 months at this point. I don't actually know where the stop tap is. I'm guessing it's in the kitchen somewhere. Finally find it, and I try and turn it with all my might. And I'm like, I've got no strength. This tap's old. So I was like, I need a spanner. So I went and found this decrepit toolbox that I own. It has no tools in it. I blame my dad for that. He didn't teach me how to do DIY. And so I phoned the only person that I knew who would be up at midnight with a tool that would be sufficient. That was my mate Jamie, who lived around the corner. Thankfully, he answered the phone. I was like, Jamie, mate, you got to come round. I've got a leak. I'm trying to turn the stop tap, stop the leak, and it's coming through the ceiling. Can you come round now? And he's like, yeah, what do you need? I was like, some sort of spanner. So anyway, 5 minutes later, he runs in, and I'm like, give me the spanner. And I managed to get on the stop tap, and we stopped the water, and it's fine. And I tell you that story because I felt out of control. I felt like I was losing my house to this uncontrollable, unpredictable moment. And the solution that I know I needed, it wasn't in sight. The tool that I needed, what wasn't reachable, the outcome I so desired was out of my reach. And the whole thing left me feeling utterly useless. Utterly useless. Our cultural moment, this contemporary age that we live in, it primes us for control. Have you noticed this? It sort of trains us to make any moment of unpredictability visible. Any moment of unpredictability manageable. Any moment of unpredictability reachable. Any moment of unpredictability useful. And if you don't believe me, think about Uber, just for a second. Those of us who don't know what Uber is, it's basically an app that you can download and order a taxi on. And in recent years, you can order lots more, like food. But before Uber, if you wanted to go from A to B, without Google Maps, you had no idea how long that journey was. You had no idea where the taxi driver would be when you phoned up the company. The cost of the route, well, you wouldn't know that until you were delivered at your destination. And they charge you £25 for what should have been less than £2.50 fuel. The taxi service that you arrange, often in advance, through another person, it didn't always bend easily around your plans, did it? You had to wait for a little bit longer than you'd hoped. But now, oh no. Uber makes the driver visible before they arrive. I got on an Uber the other day to go and pick my car up from the garage. Aaron was his name. I knew his name before he arrived. I knew what he looked like. The number plate on his car was visible before I saw it coming down the road. I know that he was driving a Toyota Avensis, and it would be white. It was visible. But he was reachable too. Within a few taps, the algorithm of the app arranged it for me. All I had to do was key in the postcode, which I didn't know, so I just Googled. And so the postcode, even the answer to that question became reachable for me. And the whole thing was manageable. That uncertainty that once existed between me and the taxi driver, no longer. I could message him before he arrived. Thank you very much. And not only that, I could see where he was, so I knew that I had time to get my bag sorted before I went and waited on the wall. Do you know what I mean? I was like, oh, I've got time for the toilet. Great. Like, it was all manageable. And then at the end of the trip, of course, what happens if you've got your notifications turned on your phone, it asks you if the journey was useful. Would you rate the taxi driver? Would you give that person a tip? Was it a 5-star rating? Yes or no? You know, we cannot see what is happening all the time. And the answers that we desire are so often out of reach. And we can't manage the process as well as we want to, or even make every situation useful for our own need. And when all of those things we feel compress on us, that we're not able to make things visible or reachable or manageable or useful, we feel out of control. Or is it just me? But what if there was another way? What if there was another way? In our reading this morning, we've read a moment where the disciples are faced with a very similar scenario, a very similar unpredictable moment. A suffering child, desperate, his father desperate for him to be healed, but a situation that will not respond to their efforts. They've reached the point where their ability cannot provide the outcome they want. And it's a good outcome that they want, but they've reached the end of themselves. In verse 15, we read that, basically what's happened before this is that Jesus has gone up to the mountain to be transfigured. If you know that story, that he takes 3 of his disciples with him. He has this really holy moment. The 3 disciples want to stay there forever. And whilst that's happening, at the bottom of the mountain, we can presume that a father with an ill son has come to find the disciples to get an unattainable outcome for his own unpredictable moment. And he comes to the disciples in the hope that they can make it visible, in the hope that they can make it reachable, in the hope that they can make it manageable and useful, except they don't. Because the Father, when Jesus presumably comes down the mountain again, the first person he sees in this crowd of people is this father who says, Lord, have mercy on my son, he said. He has seizures and is suffering greatly. He often falls into the fire or into the water. Talk about an unpredictable moment. Someone you love, someone you so desire to have the best things happen for them. There is something that is seizing that person. It's something that's outside of the Father's control. It's an illness that is safe to say is unpredictable. And it brings confusion and anger and pain. Not just for the Father, for the disciples. Because this dad, whoever he was, completely thrown the disciples under the bus. He's come straight to Jesus. So just so you know, those disciples that you're trying to train, those guys have been following you for a number of years now, maybe a number of months, utterly failed. Utterly failed. I've asked them to do this thing, but they can't do it. They have failed. I brought him, in verse 16, to your disciples, but they could not heal him. Nothing annoys me more than my own incompetence. I was 5 years old. It was sports day. 25-meter race. Me, Nelson, Chris versus George. Nelson was pretty rapid, but I had some good legs. I thought I could win this. And I could feel the tension on the side as the parents watched. And we all got ready. And we had pensive eyes on the teacher that was about to blow the whistle. And I could see the glory. I'd imagined it. I'm going to get my legs moving so fast, I'm going to win this race. They'll be eating my dust. The whistle blew. I took my first step. Little did I know that my left leg was wrapped in a thorn. And I fell flat on my face. I don't know who won the race. I don't really care, because all I could focus on was my utter failure. My own incompetence at being able to obtain an outcome in my own ability. You know, when the things don't go the way that we want, it is tempting to get angry. I don't think I even continued to run the race. I was so embarrassed. And in those moments of utter failure, when we're faced with our own incompetence to deliver the unobtainable outcome for these unpredictable moments in our lives, it's so tempting to give up. You know, loads of us, I know we are carrying years of unanswered prayer. And that is painful. And at times it makes us angry towards God, confused at his presence. You want good things for me, don't you, God? I'm asking you for what I need. Why aren't you providing it for me? And there's a wrestle there. And I don't want to diminish that, but what I do want to say is, for some of us, the unanswered prayer that we're carrying is because God isn't answering it the way that we want. We have unanswered prayer because we've been asking God to provide something for us that he doesn't want to provide. He wants to give us something else. And that's not unanswered prayer, that's pride. Because it's as if we're saying to God, look, for my thoughts are your thoughts. And neither are your ways my ways, declares I. The heavens might be higher than the earth, but my ways are higher than yours, God. And my thoughts are better than yours, actually, about this unpredictable circumstance that I'm trying to provide an unattainable outcome for. And we miss the gentle leading of the whispering God, who gently says to us, as it's written in Isaiah 55, verse 8 to 9, for my thoughts are not your thoughts. And neither are my ways your ways, declares the Lord. You know, the heavens are higher than the earth. My ways are higher than yours. My thoughts than your thoughts. And I wonder if for some of us today, we have had such a firm grip on the outcome that we want, that we are actually unable to receive the answer that God wants to give us. You know, it takes real courage to let go. It really does. Like if you've ever been abseiling before, it takes real courage to trust the harness that holds you and to sit in its ability to carry your weight and to provide for you the thing that you desperately need but aren't sure whether this harness can do it or not. It takes real courage to be receptive of God's perception of our unpredictable lives, because when we open ourselves up to the possibility that the answer that he wants to give us is not the one we were hoping for. So what had gone wrong? Why couldn't the disciples do it? Why had they failed? Why had they fallen at the first hurdle? Their inability to control the unpredictability of this moment, of this boy's illness. They're there, but they are courageous enough. Or they do it in private, which is I find funny. They've been thrown under the bus in public, and they wait until they're with Jesus in private. But it's still a brave moment in privacy to open themselves up, to be receptive of an answer that they might not want to hear. And they come to Jesus and they ask him quite a simple question that gets to the heart of it. They just say, why couldn't we drive it out? We've watched you do it, Jesus. Why couldn't we? As if to say, what's wrong with us? As if to say, like, what's made us so incompetent? What makes us so unable to attain the unattainable outcome for this unpredictable moment? And that, their inability to control the outcome left them focused on the failure of their own ability. And here Jesus comes with an answer. And I'm not sure they were expecting this one. I'm not sure they were expecting the words like this to fall out of Jesus' mouth. He just says, because you have so little faith. Ouch. Ouch. Now, upon first reading this, this I think sometimes can double down on this idea that the reason we come face to face with these unpredictable moments where we cannot obtain the unattainable outcome is because of the quality and quantity of our own faith. I grew up thinking that my faith needed to be big. It needed to be strong. It needed to be something in order for it to do something. And if I was experiencing unpredictable moments, it was something to do with my lack of faith, the limited faith that I had. The unpredictable moment of being dumped by another girlfriend for the third time in succession was because my faith in Jesus wasn't strong enough. I grew up thinking that the unpredictable moment of being told to leave school because my behavior wasn't quite good enough, and that it might be wise to find a better school for me to go to down the road, was because my faith in Jesus wasn't certain enough. And that unpredictable moment at 17 years old, where I encountered deep loneliness, I thought that was because my faith was almost non-existent. I've lived with an undercurrent of thinking that led me to believe that if I was going to grow faith, I had to grow faith that is big and strong so it will be able to do immense things. I grew up with that idea. And in my adult life as a follower of Jesus, I've been trying to unravel it all the time. I think we assume that faith is some kind of attainable amount that would enable us to obtain those attainable solutions to our unpredictable lives. And when we think like that, we think that faith, it puts onus on us. When we think it's some sort of kind of attainable amount, it puts the onus, the strength, our ability is on you and me. And that's the mistake that the disciples make here. They think it's about their ability. In Matthew, the manuscripts apparently aren't reliable. And so verse 21, if you look in your Bible, lots of translations of the Bible, verse 21 is missing. So if you look at it, it goes verse 20, and then the next bit, verse 22. It's where's 21 gone? Where's that gone? And the verse that's omitted is Jesus getting to the rub of why they couldn't do what they were doing. And so to find that verse, we can look at Mark. So Mark's account in chapter 9 basically says, Jesus' response, he says, boys, this kind can come out only through prayer. This can only come out through prayer. And it seems as though, even though they'd asked Jesus to teach them how to pray, they'd forgotten to. They'd forgotten to pray. And so in trusting God with this unpredictable moment before themselves, instead of going to God and asking Him for an uncontainable outcome to this unpredictable moment, they tried to produce it for themselves. They tried to make it visible for themselves. They tried to make it reachable for themselves. They tried to manage the situation in their own strength. They've tried to make the whole thing useful, and ultimately, eggs on their own face. Eggs on their own face. Imagine it. If we imported ourselves, our contemporary selves, into the story, I think we'd do the same. I think we'd try to make it visible and manageable and reachable and useful. But Jesus isn't there, right? He's not there. He's up the mountain. Peter, James, and John are with him. They've disappeared up there somewhere. It's just us. It's just us, guys. So I'd begin. I don't know if you've been. I'd be like, hello, sir, what's your name? Yes, nice to meet you. So when did this begin? How long has this been happening for? Is there a pattern that's emerged? Help me see what's invisible. I'd start by making it visible. I'd try to get it under control, but ultimately that would lead to no outcome that I'd want. There'd be nothing. So then I'd try to make it reachable. Like, I've seen Jesus do this before. Like, what did he say last time? Was it come out of him, or was it like out of him come? Like, what way? Did he say it louder? Did he say it quieter? Did he raise his voice? Maybe that was the difference. Perhaps I just need to say it louder, stronger. Maybe I've got the words in the wrong order. Because we think if we can remember the right framework, the right technique in these moments, and apply the right policy, that perhaps we can reach out and grab the unattainable outcome that we desire for these unpredictable circumstances, but we'll still find nothing. And so then we'll move to try and make it manageable. Andrew, just move the crowd back, will you? Philip, stay with the Father. Stay over there with him. Judas, do something useful. Stop counting the money. Do a risk assessment. I don't know. Like everyone else, just make some space. And on 3, what we'll do, we'll all shout. We'll all shout. Because I've tried shouting, that didn't work. So maybe we all need to do it. Let's all shout as loud as we can. And you know, sometimes when we've assigned every job, and we've arranged every person, and we've organized the unpredictable moment within an inch of its life, still that circumstance doesn't change. Still nothing. It still remains completely beyond our control. So maybe we just come to it and just go, do you know what? How ultimately can we just make this useful? How can we make this unpredictable moment be a story where we can tell the success of our ministry, of our ability? Perhaps the word might spread. The disciples can do it now without Jesus. They don't need him. We can go direct to them. And perhaps, if I'm honest, that's where I'd go mostly wrong in this situation if I was put into it. You know, the boy's no longer simply suffering, or a simply suffering child in need of mercy. But the boy, this uncontrollable, unpredictable moment, it's become an opportunity for me to present the result, for me to show off. In our efforts to make the unpredictable circumstances useful, we come face to face with how useless we are. And we're left to think, why couldn't we do it? Why couldn't we drive it out? Why couldn't we do it? What did we get wrong? What we were missing? And the disciples sought to bring about control to this unpredictable moment through their own outcomes, in their own means. And for the disciples, faith had become a means of getting a result rather than a relationship that was dependent upon Jesus. They were using their faith to get a result rather than allowing it to invite them into deeper relationship with Jesus. And it's almost as if they're trying to turn the kingdom of God into an algorithm like Uber. It would help them see the problem. It would help them reach the power. It would help them manage the process. It would help them secure the outcome. But faith isn't an algorithm. It's agriculture. It's not an algorithm, it's agriculture. Jesus' answer to their questions of why couldn't we do it? He says, truly I tell you, if you had faith as small as a mustard seed, you could say to this mountain, move from here to here, and it will move. The kind of faith that Jesus wants his disciples to have is like that of a mustard seed. A mustard seed. But the danger is that, again, we get focused on the size of a mustard seed. And I think there's some truth in there. But what I want to get to is the quality of a mustard seed, not the size of it. You see, the idea of a mustard seed is it needs to be planted into an unpredictable environment in order for it to grow an outcome that's beyond itself. A mustard seed has to be planted into an unpredictable environment, an environment in which it cannot control the things it needs, in order for it to grow an outcome that's beyond its control. If I was a mustard seed, I would not want to be buried, thank you very much. I'd want to stay well above the surface of the ground. Because I want to know where the birds are. Because they're going to come and eat me, and I want to know where it's coming from. I'm under threat, and I want to control the next threat that comes. I want to see the clouds form so that I can position myself in exactly the right place so that when the rain pours after this drought, I'm ready. I want to know where the sun is going to shine on me so that I can pop out, get enough, and go somewhere else in the shade so I don't get burned. I want to control the elements. But Jesus says you've got to have a faith like a mustard seed. And in that, it's got to be buried into the unpredictability, the uncontrollable moments of your life. It's got to be buried in those moments of unpredictability. And you've got to allow me to provide for you in order for your faith to develop an outcome that is beyond your control. In his commentary on Matthew, R.T. France says this: faith is not a measurable commodity, but a relationship. And what achieves results through prayer is not a superior quantity of faith, but the unlimited power of God. I haven't got a slide, so I'll say it again. Faith is not a measurable quantity. It is not a commodity, he says, but it is a relationship. And what achieves results through prayer is not superior quantity, but quantity of faith, but the unlimited power of God. It's not an algorithm that trains us to optimize our resourcefulness, but faith is agriculture that trains us to optimize our receptivity. And so what on earth does it look like to have a faith like a mustard seed? Well, as we come to a close, as I come into land, let me just tell you a story of what happened to me in the last 10 days as a really simple, may it be silly example of what I think this looks like. Lots of my reflections this morning have been born out of reading a book by an author called Andrew Root and his wife called Cara, called A Pilgrimage into Letting Go. I'd highly recommend it if you've got the opportunity to access it or buy it. It's beautiful. But I was reading a chapter that was basically digging at this stuff. And I just had this sudden realization. It was almost like the Holy Spirit just showed me a mirror. And I looked into it. You know, you ever have those moments where it's like the Lord just grabs your attention just for a moment? And I just felt the Spirit really convict me. And just say something along the lines. It's not like I heard an audible voice, but it's like, this is how I interpret it. It's like Tim, you're trying to control the outcome. You're trying to control the outcome. When actually, I just want you to just embrace the unpredictability of this moment and allow me to provide for you the things that I know that you need, because I'm the good shepherd. And so I put down my beer and I closed the book and I sat there feeling useless and rubbish because I'd got it so wrong. And I realized that for, I don't know how long, maybe months now, I've been lured into this by this contemporary moment to think that I can control the outcomes and to dangerously think perhaps that I can control God. But he's uncontrollable. He's uncontainable. So I just sat there for a moment and I was like, okay, Lord, have your way. Like, I'm trying to learn this. Show me how this can look. And at the time, as I was reading the book, Freddie was asleep. It was about in the early evening. So Melissa, my wife, was putting our daughter Poppy down to sleep, and Melissa came downstairs. And I could see something that was bothering her. So I said, "You all right?" She said, "Oh, no, not really. Like, the childcare that we had tomorrow, someone was going to come and help, like, look after Poppy, but they can't anymore because something's come up. So I'm facing another day where you're at work and I'm on my own, looking after the kids, and I just can't face another day of it, really. It's just hard." She's an amazing mom, but if we've been parents of little ones, we know the reality, right? It can be hard. And I felt myself go into fixer mode. Where's the spanner? Where's my strength? How do I get an answer that's reachable? How do I make this moment useful? How can I be useful? And I just felt the Spirit go, "No, don't do that." I was like, okay. So I just said to Liz, I was like, "Do you want a cup of tea?" She's like, yeah. So as I was making a cup of tea, I walked over to the bin, and I don't know why I'm telling you this bit, but it's not detail that matters. But it paints a picture of where I'm at. I'm over the bin, and I'm about to put the tea bag in, and I just felt the Holy Spirit go, "Tim, do you remember the God that's uncontrollable? Do you remember this is a moment that is uncontrollable right now? Do you want to just take a moment and just invite me in?" So I was like, okay. So I was like, okay, God, here it is. You fix it. And I walked back into the room. We sat down having a cup of tea, and then Liz got a text. And she looked at it and she read it. She went, "Huh." I was like, "What's that?" She said, "Oh, just a friend of mine's texted me, whose daughter is Poppy's best mate. Text read something like this: 'Oh, my childcare's dropped through tomorrow. I can't face another day looking after the kids on my own whilst my husband works. Don't suppose you're free? I can drive over and we can do it together.'" And I tell that story not to be like, "Look at me. Look at how useful I am. Look at how able I am." But just I think at how easy it is to genuinely invite God into the unpredictable moments and to trust that he can provide an outcome. And I'm not saying that it's going to happen like that again the next time I do it and it's going to answer within 10 minutes. But my hope is to share that story just as an encouragement, to just be like, for some of us to release the grip on the answer that we're trying to obtain is going to take some serious courage. More courage than me standing over a bin putting a tea bag in the bin. Like more than that, and I get that. But it's still true of us all, I think. And so in humility, I want to invite us all, maybe this week, to just practice the presence of God by submerging ourselves into the unpredictability of our lives. And whatever it is, whatever the unpredictable moment is for you, I don't know what it is, but I'm going to guess that you know what it is. And just to invite the Lord to do what he does, to take control, to allow him to make the unattainable outcome visible, to allow him to make the unattainable outcome manageable, to allow him to obtain the outcome that is reachable for him and ultimately useful to you. And so practically this could look like two things: a 15-minute perch or a 5-minute pause. A 15-minute perch or a 5-minute pause. In the hurriness of our life this week, I just invite us to either just sit with God for 15 minutes and just open-handed, and just invite him to have control in that situation. Or a 5-minute pause in the run of a work day, when something unpredictable happens this week, when you sense yourself moving into fixer mode, when that email comes across your desk that you weren't anticipating, to just invite the Lord. Gosh, 5 minutes, God, over to you. I do not want to control this because the outcome that I'll do is terrible, but I'm going to trust that you can. So should we wait on God for a second or two? And so maybe we'll just together for a few moments practice that 5-minute pause. And for some of us, we'll have many moments, many situations that are piling up on one another that all just feels overwhelming. And just for the sake of time, I just want you to, God can deal with all of it, right? But just for the sake of time, it's just to present one before the Lord that is pressing this week. And it's something that you've been trying to provide an outcome for. And you might want to imagine the faces involved with that in front of you. You might want to see the screen that the email's written on. You might even want to just imagine yourself writing it down on a piece of paper. And as you do, I just want to invite you to just come before God, come before Jesus, and with humility say sorry. Jesus, we're sorry where we've not invited you into this. Help us to remember the faith like a mustard seed that you desire us to have. And would you come and control this now? Do what only you can. It's over to you. It's over to you. It's over to you. We choose to trust you again this morning, Jesus. We choose to allow our faith in you to be firmly planted into this unpredictable moment that we face. And we want to release to you now that which we are trying to provide for ourselves. And as the band begin to play, they're going to continue leading us in sung worship. And if you'd like to just have someone pray with you about something that's going on in your life that's unpredictable, and you want someone to stand with you and pray with you, we would love to do that. Jess and I and Kevin and Heather and anyone else who's trained to pray in this church. We're going to be at the front on my left, your right. And I recognize it's a brave thing to do, isn't it? To step from beyond where you are into a space that's somewhere else. But for some of us, we know we need to do that. That's a physical act of us letting go, perhaps. And it might be something completely other. It might be you just come in today and what I've said has gone totally over your head, but you still know that you need prayer. You still know you need someone that is wanting to stand with you and pray with you. And so if you'd love to come forward and receive that, it'd be our honor. But the band are going to lead us in worship now. So why don't we just stand if we're willing and able.